in this chapter 2, I'll be creating user API, table and routes. So I'm going to create one folder here, models, and first one is user.py. I'm going to create this user model. So first of all, I'm going to import db database.exts import db, and I'm going to create user model. I can pass db.model and my user content first id db.column. This will be my integer, and this will be my primary key. I'm going to copy this and paste here. Okay, and next this will be for my name. User has email, user has department, also designation, contact, and role. What is the role of user? And also user is assigned one manager, so manager id. Okay, this name will be string, so I can write here string. This email will also be string. This department will also be string. All of my this designation, contact and role will be string. Okay, and also uh, this will not be primary key. Id is only primary key. So what I can do is I can select all, and I can write nullable equals true. In fact, nullable equals false. That means there should be some value. So I have to pass nullable equals false. Okay, so this is my user model. Now I'll be having some function here to save my user. Let me create save function, and to save my user I have to write db.session.add self and db.session.commit. Okay, this will save my user, and to delete my user I can write db.session.delete. db.session. After delete I have to commit my changes. Now final is for update. I'm going to update my name, email, department, designation, contact, role and manager id. I'm going to write self.name equals name, self.email equals email, self.department equals department, self.designation equals designation, self.contact equals contact, self.role equals role, self.manager id equals manager id. After this again I have to commit my changes. Commit. Okay, this is how we can create our model. So this is user model, and user contains id, name, email, department, designation, contact, role and manager id. And I will be creating all the API to save my user, to delete my user and to update my user. Okay, so this model is completed. Now I'm going to create routes. So here I'm going to create one folder API, and inside API suppose user routes.py. Here I'm going to import a request. I'm going to import models that I have just created. User, import user, and from Flask RESTX I am going to import resource, namespace and fields. Okay, I think it will all be required. Okay, now I am going to create user namespace. If you see in the API document, this is the default namespace, right? This is for hello world. Now I am going to create user namespace. So here I can write user ns namespace equals namespace, and my namespace name is users because this is for users, and I can write description namespace users, and this description will be visible here, so it will be users and the description will be visible here. So I have to write description here. Now I can create user API model, user ns dot model, this is for user, and my user contains id, fields dot it is integer, and my user has a name, this will be string, let me copy paste this field. Okay, next one is for my email, department, designation, contact, role and manager id, this will be integer. Okay, this is my user API model. Now I'm going to create root, and for that I have to write user ns, I have to define path, so I can write root slash, that means when I go to slash users, then this API will be called. I can create class and one class name, users resource, and I have to pass my resource I have already imported here. Now when I call get request, I have to write def get, and I have to write comment in triple quotation, and this comment will be visible in API document, so it is very helpful. So I can write get all users, and again this comment is required because in our API document we will be seeing this comment get all users. So now I can write employees equals to, I can query all my employees, so I can write user dot query dot all, which will give all my employees, and I can return employees, as simple as this. And to post a user, that means to create a user, I can write post and again comment, I can write create a new user. I'll be getting payload from the user, so I can write data equals request dot get JSON, and I have already imported request here, so from Flask I have imported request, and to create a new user, the user will give me some payload and I'm taking that payload, so data equals request dot get JSON. Now I'm going to create user, so new user equals user, I have already created this user model, and name equals, I need to pass ID because that is primary key that will be assigned automatically, so I have to start from name, so I can write data dot get name. For email, data dot get email. For department, data dot get department. For designation, data.get designation. Contact data.get contact. Role data.get role. Manager id data.get manager id. Okay, now to save this user, I have already created dot save method. If you see here, there is already save method, so I can directly write new user dot save. Okay, I can return this new user. Okay, this is for my slash root. So if I send get request, I'll be getting all the users, and if I send push request, then it will take my user, it will take all the fields from my request, and it will create a new user, and I'm returning this new user. So this is completed. Now also I'm going to make a root for editing or deleting a user. So I can write here, it will be my separate root, so I can write user namespace dot root. I have to pass id. Id is required to update specific user or to delete a specific user, so id is required, so I have to pass this id in this root. Now I'm going to create one class. This will be my user resource. I have created users resource. Now this will be my user resource. I'm going to pass a resource. Again, I have to create get command. This get is for getting all the users, but this get is to get a specific user, and for that id will be required. And again, comment get a user details by id. I can write user equals user dot query dot get or 404. I have to pass id, and then I have to return this user. This is for a individual user, and also update a user self id. Update a user by id. I can write user to update equals user dot query. First of all, I have to get that user dot get or 404 id, and also I have to get request from user. That means I will be getting payload, so I can write request dot get JSON, and then I can write user to update dot. I have already created update method. If you see here in this model, there is update function, so I can write user to update dot update, and it will take all of these field. So I have to pass this field here. Data dot get name, data dot email, department, data dot get designation, for contact, for role, for manager id. So I have to pass all of these field, so I have passed from here, and then I'm going to return one message. I can write message user updated successfully. Okay, and this will update a user by id. Now last one is to delete a user. Def delete, also id will be required. delete a user by ID. I can write user to delete equals, I have to first get that user dot query dot getter 404. I have to pass ID. Then I can write user to delete. I've already created a delete method here, so I can call from here delete, and then I can return one message. I can write user deleted successfully. Okay, so this is completed. Now let me run my code python main.py, and now if I refresh this, okay, first of all I have to register my namespace. If you see here, I have created this user namespace. I have to register this user namespace. So for that, I have to go my main file main.py, and from here I have to import that namespace. So I can write from api.userroots. I have to import user namespace, and here I can add api.add namespace, and my namespace name is user namespace. Now if I control yes, and if I refresh this page, see my user's namespace is here. So it says a namespace for users. If I go here, see all my API are here. So this is for getting all the users. If I go here and if I click on execute, as expected I am getting this error because the code is still not completed. If I go to my terminal, it says no such stable user because I have already created a user model, but there is no any user table. If I go to my database and if I refresh this, see there is no any table. I have to create my table first. Now to create a table, let me open another terminal here. Let me activate virtual env here. To create a table, I have to run this command again, python -m database dot db init. Now if I click enter, okay, database is created because I have added one new table, or I have created one new model, that is user model. And now if I go to db browser and if I refresh this, see my user table is created. I can see table from here. Now my application is running. Now again if I go to here and if I execute this again, now I will be getting this response, means there is no any user, right? I'm going to create one user here. Let's see if it works or not. Try it out, execute. You can see here there is no any payload example. That means I'm not able to identify what my this user field contain. I don't know if this user contain name, department, designation. There is no any payload example, so I can add payload example here. If I go to my user roots, I have already defined this user API model. That means my user contains this name, email, department, designation, contact, role, manager ID. I have to add this user API model in my API. So what I can do is I can go to this post request, and here I can write user ns dot expect. I can pass this user API model, as simple as this. Let me save this. And now if I go here, let me refresh this site, users, post request. Now I can see the example value. Now I know what this payload should contain. Payload contains name, email, department, destination, contact, role, and manager ID. This ID is not required, but let me keep it simple for now. So this is the payload example. Now I can click and try it out, and now here I can give some value. This ID is not required, I will handle this later, but I can write suppose John Doe. This is the name, email is suppose john@gmail.com. Department is engineering. Designation is a lead engineer, lead software engineer. Contact is suppose. So this is the contact. Role is suppose employee. Manager ID is suppose 1. When I click on this execute button, there is internal server error, and you can clearly see here the request URL is this my base path / API / users, because if you see in my code in this main.py, prefix is / API, and then this namespace contains this users, so it is / API / users. And if you see here, the error message is object of type user is not JSON serializable, so I have to make my response JSON serializable. And for that, what I can do is, just like expect, I have to convert my response into JSON serializable, and for that I can write here @user namespace dot marshal with, I can write marshal with, and I can pass this user API model. This expect will validate the input, and this marshal with formats the output. So you have to remember this. This expect will validates the input, means I'm getting the payload example, right? And then this marshal with, it will format the output. That means when I click execute button, my response will be JSON serializable now with this marshal with, and I'm passing this user API model, and I have already defined user API model here. That means it will format my output. And now if I save this, and now if I go to my API document, my payload is here. Now if I click on execute button, see 200, that means success. The user is created successfully. Now if I go to my get API, and if I click on try it out and then this execute button, I'm still viewing this internal server error in this get request, because in the get request also I have to write this marshal with. So here I can write user ns dot, I have to write now marshal list with, because it will contain array of objects. My post request will contain just one payload. That means I'm going to create only one user with this API, right? So I have to write here marshal with, but this get API contains all the users, and the users will be in array of objects. So I have to write marshal list with, and I have to pass again same API model, user API model. Now if I save this and if I execute this, see I'm able to see my users list. There are same user list because I clicked post request 2 times, so there are 2 users. And if you see here, ID is assigned automatically and other data are same. I can also delete this data, and for that I can go to delete request, or first of all let me update this request. I can copy this, let me update first one. Here I can click and try it out, and again there is no any payload example. So for this put request also I can go to here. In fact I can copy this, Control C, and in this put request I can put expect, so that I can get my payload example. Now if I go to my API document here, and if I refresh this, okay, first of all let me get all the users, try it out, execute. I will copy this, Control C, and in my put request now I'll be able to see this example value, try it out, Control V, and this will be for my ID equals 1, so I have to pass ID equals 1, and this will go in my URL. You can see here ID is required, int ID, so I have to pass ID equals 1. And here now I would like to change my manager ID to 2. and if I click on execute, okay, I'm getting this error. I have to remove this comma here, and now if I click on execute again, okay, now the message is user updated successfully. I have updated my manager ID. If I click on execute again in this get request, now the manager ID is 2. So I have updated my user. And now I would like to delete this second user. So in the delete request here, I can click on try it out. I can pass this ID to execute. User deleted successfully. If I hit get request again, now there is only one user. And now if I want to get only one user, I have this API also here. If you see here, get a user details by ID. So if I click on try it out, I would like to fetch only first user having ID equals 1. I can click on execute, and also here also I have to I have same error. That means in the get request here I have to write same code. That means user ns dot marshal with, because it will get only one user, so I can write marshal with my same API model. Control yes. And now if I click on execute, I will get only one user. So all of my API is working now. But the problem here is, if I go to my post user, if I click on cancel, let me refresh this page. Users in the post request, if you see here, ID is listed here, but ID is not required. When I send the post request, when I create a new user, ID is not required. In the same way, if I go to put request, again ID is not required, right? So I have to fix this thing. If I go to here, user API model, if I remove ID from here, then I have to create separate model for Marshall list with also, because if you see here, Marshall will take also user API model and expect will take also user API model. If I go to my API document, and if you see here, the response will take ID but not the payload. When I send the request, ID is not required, but when I get the response, there is ID. So I can't remove this ID, because in my output the ID will be there, and this Marshall list with or Marshall with take the same API model, so I can't remove this ID from here. But what I can do is I can create my own decorator. I will show you how. I have to first create one utils folder here, utils. I'm going to create custom decorator .py. So why am I creating this custom decorator? Because I want to decorate this expect function. This will take user API model, but I want to add one feature to remove some field from this model. Right now I would like to remove ID from this model, so I would like to create one my own decorator. Okay, so I'm going to create one decorator very quickly. I'm going to write def expect. Now if you see here, I'm going to write the same function name expect. That is not required, but you can write the same function name. It will require my namespace model, and there will be exclude fields. That means if I pass suppose ID, then the ID will be removed from my model. Also I can write name suffix equals input. I'm going to create one decorator. It will take function. Now I can write input model equals, I can write ns.colon. I have to pass model.name, name suffix, and also I have to pass model. So what is this? So if you see my user root in this user API model, if you see here, this there is user, right? So this user is my model name. So I will get user from here, model.name, and then name suffix is input. So it will be like user input. So I'm going to change name slightly, so it will be user input, and I'm passing model also. That means I'm going to passing this user API model. Okay, I'm cloning this field. And now if I pass some value here, if I pass suppose id, I have to loop here. So for field in exclude field, from my input model I have to remove that field. I can write pop field, I can write none. That means I'm going to, if my exclude field contains some field, I'm going to remove that field from my model. So if you see here, this is my user API model. I am passing user API model here, and if there is some field, then I'm going to remove that field. Now I'm going to return like the same way. Here I'm writing namespace dot expect, right? I'm going to write a return my namespace dot expect, and I'm going to pass this input model just like this, ns dot expect and my model name. But this is my decorator, so I have to pass here func also. So this is how decorator will be created, right? You have to first know how decorator works. What is the use of decorator? Decorator will change the behavior of the function, right? And now I have to pass decorator. This decorator function will comes under the advanced course of Python, so I don't want to make this complex, but you have to know why we are doing this, because we want to remove some field from the user API model, so we are creating this custom decorator. Now what am I going to do is, in this aspect I'm going to use my own custom decorator. So let me remove this, and I can write here @expect. I have to first import my expect function. So here I can write from utils.custom decorator. I have to import expect. Okay, and here I can write expect. I have already created expect here, and now it takes namespace first. So I can write user namespace. Then it takes model. I can pass my user API model, and I want to exclude one field, and that field is I have to pass in array. I have to remove id field. As simple as this. Now if I press Ctrl yes, and if I go to my API document, and now if I refresh this site, and in this create a new user request, if you see here, now there is no id because I have created my own custom decorator. And here the new feature added is, now I can remove the field from my model. So this custom decorator will be very helpful. It is not mandatory, but I think this is very helpful in this project. Okay, I'm going to copy this, and here also I will not be using expect like this, so I'm going to pass my own custom decorator, and also I don't need id here. Okay, this is it. Now if I refresh this again, and in the user and in this API also there is no id. Now this is completed. In this chapter 2, what we have done so far is, we have created user table, we have created our models, we have created our routes, we have created our own custom decorator also. And if you see in the database, there is user table. I can refresh this table, and if I click on browse table, there is some data, there is one data, and I don't need this database by the way, because I can get all my users from this API document. If I click on try it out, if I click on execute, I'm able to see my database, see my user. So I have implemented this user API. And in this chapter 2, I would also like to cover the concept of course. The course will be useful if I want to implement both front end and back end side. That means if I want to send request from back end to front end, then course will be very helpful. So I need to know the concept of course. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I would like to install course. So I can write pip install Flask course. I can write pip freeze requirements.txt to save my requirements in this file. CLS, and now I can import course here from Flask course. I can import course, and this course will be helpful to access allow from origin. In the future, suppose if I want to implement front end, then my front end origin and my backend origin will be different. So to hand check between the front end and backend, I have to implement this course, and here I can initialize that course. I am allowing course for all routes and all origins, so I can write course. When you see course error, then you have to come to your backend side and you have to implement this course. Right now I am allowing course for all routes and all origins. Okay, this is all for chapter 2. In the chapter 3 I will be creating employee leave API routes and models.